And also you.
So I am glad you're here. I wanted to introduce Bridget Green, who is Vice President of Publishing with Westminster Journal Express, which is my happy home. And Bridget is a friend of this congregation, worship too, and works remotely in Louisville. So we're so glad to have you, Bridget, as one who's in charge of the acquisition of books for my press. And hi to Dana. Hi Dana, we're glad you're with us. So tonight, last week we kind of focused on paths, and I'll remember to bring back another. I'll remember to bring another handout from last week, but I'll kind of just I'll keep the other handouts week to week because people need to catch up. I had a chance to teach from this psalm. On the weekend, I was in Holland, Michigan. I flew last Thursday and spent Saturday at 30 minutes in Presbyterian Church, Holland. And hey, Jackie, come on in.
Hey, Jackie.
And it was a women's retreat, and we worked with this particular time. They were interested in God's face, so we played with that all day on Saturday. So it's still fresh in my mind. And there used to be I have an Alexa at home, and there used to be the question of the day. Do you remember that? And I love the question of the day, and then it would tell you all about the answer, but you know, it all changed. I don't listen to it anymore. But I like the idea of the question of the day, and when I look at it, it's always kind of interesting to see, you know, if my brain was alert enough to answer it. So the question of the day that I want you to think about, we're not going to answer it right immediately, is your own experience of the presence of God. So your own experience of God's presence or God's face. A parent left a young child alone with his new baby sister and overheard and whispered to her, "Can you tell me what God looks like?" I used to know, but I'm beginning to forget. That's so true of a young child. I used to know, but I'm beginning to forget. I love the question and his reason behind it, and indeed his theology. I've often thought that the youngest and the oldest people we know are nearest to the presence of God's Spirit. Like Moses, who asked to see God, I think we all yearn for that concrete and physical assurance of the one whose presence is both ineffable and mysterious. And I've been thinking, when I was selecting songs for this book and images that I really wanted to focus on, I satisfied a lot of my own yearnings and quests because I love that. I've always loved the Old Testament stories about the people of God and God, the whole thing of God's face. So when you think about Old Testament stories about God's face, what stories come to mind? Or God's presence? Make it broader than just a face, because I think
Moses, the story of Moses.
yes, yes, yes. And you know, that story is just, I don't even know if it's in the lectionary. Is it in the lectionary?
That's gotta be.
Guy is not on mine. Exodus 33, it was, Moses was speaking with God about God's presence. And he said, Moses said, "Show me your glorious presence." Earlier in chapter 33, you know, remember the meeting tent where Moses would go to meet God in the meeting tent? And when Moses entered the tent, the column of cloud would come down and stand in the tent entrance while the Lord talked with Moses. When all the people saw the column of cloud standing at the tent entrance, they would all rise and bow down at the entrances to their tents. And this way the Lord used to speak to Moses face. Like two people talking to each other. And then on down in that chapter, Moses asked that, God's presence God, and Moses, Lord said to Moses, I'll do exactly what you've asked because you have my special approval. And I know you by name. The intimacy of this chapter is just, it's just so amazing. Moses said, please show me your glorious presence. And the Lord said, I'll make all my goodness pass in front of you, and I'll proclaim before you the name of the Lord. I will be kind to whoever I wish to be kind, and I will have compassion to whomever I wish to be compassionate. But the Lord said, you can't see my face. Now, isn't it interesting to turn around from just like 8 verses ahead when they were face to face, like two people talking to each other. So, it's probably very different in RSV. That verse, 11.
11,
Thus the Lord used to speak to Moses face to face as one speaks to a friend.
Oh, wow. I really like that. I really like that. As one speaks to a friend, face to face, like two people talking to each other. Ooh.
but then in verse 20,
Mhm.
but God said, you cannot see my face, for no one shall see me and live.
Right. And then 22.
And while my glory passes by, I will put you in a cleft of the rock, and I will cover you with my hand until I have passed by.
And in Communist Bible, as my glorious presence passes by, and I'll cover you with my hand until I pass by. All right, so there we got Moses, which is kind of a classic story of God's presence. What other stories do you remember?
I was gonna say, I bet Carol has a good hymn about that cleft of the rock.
Yes, I know actually several. It drives my husband crazy
Yeah.
when I think of one and start singing
Yeah.
it because of something I just read in the New York Times or
Yeah.
something. It drives.
Oh, here's
me
one
crazy.
here. Oh, Lord, isn't that it? Here, oh, Lord, I see thee face to face. Isn't that it? Hey. Yeah, yeah. So we're just talking about, hey, Lynn. Welcome, Deb. I couldn't get in the back.
Oh, darn.
You don't have the code?
Here.
No, well, I don't do numbers. Yeah, it's my fault.
No, just take the button.
Okay.
It's on the bottom.
Okay, so we've done Moses. What other stories do you remember in the Old Testament about the presence of God or God's face? What do you think of?
Well, I think interestingly, Jesus' baptism, the transfiguration, the theophanies are, we hear the voice, I guess we don't see the
Yeah.
face necessarily,
Right,
but I think of God's presence being palpable.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
About the Garden of Eden, when you there? It's not the same.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Are you thinking primarily about the Hebrew?
Well, like, I was gonna get into New Testament, but, that's fine, either way, we can mix it up. Do you have one? Jen?
There are a lot of them. I'm trying to think of, there was one that passed, I've read and was gone.
I'm sure. If we keep on talking, it'll pass back through. That's what my experience of my memory.
I think Abraham and God, negotiating
Mhm.
over how many would be spared.
Yeah. And sometimes we get when God's messenger coming, which you kind of wonder about, God's messenger and what that was about.
The
Elijah.
other story where someone's talking to God is Elijah.
Elijah. So you remember that one? You're on Mount Horeb, right?
It says Sinai.
Oh, it's Sinai?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Elijah sent to, destroy the prophets of Baal, and then, Ahab, Jezebel?
Mhm.
Jezebel says, well, I'm gonna, you can't live. And he runs to Mount Horeb, and remember that famous passage in 1 Kings 19, God was not in the wind, not in the fire, not in the earthquake. And in the NRSV, it says God was in or in our still, what?
Still small voice.
Still small voice is King James. NRSV is the sound of sheer silence.
I think that's right, yeah.
I love the different phrases. So God was on the wind in the sound of, what did you say, Jack?
Still small voice.
Still small voice. And, silence, and then in the Common English Bible, I remember we were sitting around the table as editors, and Brett Strong was, this was First Kings, the first book that was coming in from the Bible translators, and, I turned to Brett Strong, who was working on it at the time, and said, what are you gonna do? That passage is, well, it's one of my favorites, and I have those two translations, the sound of sheer silence and, a still small voice, what are you gonna do with it? And he chose to say a voice, thin, very quiet. So, TV.
Later on in Exodus, in chapter 40, the Lord is described as a cloud.
Yeah, yeah,
And so they don't, but they use the cloud to decide when to move and when to stay.
exactly. You remember the other image? Not just a cloud, but what? A pillar of cloud by day and a fire by night to lead, right? Anything else you can think of in Old Testament?
Isaiah 6,
Isaiah 6, yeah.
look at the NRSV, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting on a throne, high and lofty, and the hem of his robe filled the temple. Seraphs were in attendance above him, each had 6 wings, with 2 they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they flew. And one called to another and said, holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts, the whole earth is full of your glory.
I saw the Lord. Other stories you can remember.
Well, in Job, when God said, where were you when I created?
Yeah.
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 All those verses.
Yeah, and they're sitting there just poking me up to the knee. And where were you? God spoke directly to Job.
Out of the whirlwind.
Out of the whirlwind. Jacob wrestling with God, was another good one. And then this one is, I don't think it's a stretch, but, I gotta get a woman in there. Hagar. Hagar.
She named him.
Say more, she named.
She named,
She named-
she names God.
And the first person to name God, right? And it was a woman. Elroy. Elroy, you are a God who sees or God whom I've seen. Either way, it works. So one of the things we notice about, God's presence or God's face is that, and when you read Old Testament stories and, you read Old Testament stories and when God's face is turned towards them, then they know that God is with them. And if God's face, is not with them, then it means that God's presence is not with them. And so they're very attuned to how God's presence, how they experience God's presence. Let's look at Psalm 27, and let's read it in some sections and see what's going on in these different sections. So if somebody would read 1 through 6, that's our first one. And as it's read, notice what the psalm writer is saying about God's presence. Somebody have it?
I'll read it. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When evildoers assail me to eat up my flesh, my adversaries and foes, it is they who stumble and fall. Though an army encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war arise against me, yet I will be confident. One thing have I asked of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in his temple. For he will hide me in his shelter in the day of trouble. He will conceal me under the cover of his tent. He will lift me high upon a rock. And now my head shall be lifted up above my enemies all around me, and I will offer in my tent sacrifices with shouts of joy. I will sing and make melody to the Lord.
No, what do you hear the psalmist expressing in these first verses? Why? Yeah, anything else?
Protector.
Yeah, very definitely protector. Shelter me, hide me in a secret place. And again, it's kind of like we got last week about the, you know, the fear of the enemies. What are some of the, metaphors used to describe God?
Tent. Will conceal me under the cover of his tent.
Yep. What else? You know, this stronghold, light, salvation, yep, salvation. The tent, shelter, you know, and I want to live in God's house. Then the focus changes a bit when we get to, verses 7 to 10. Can somebody read 7 to 10?
I will.
Thanks.
Hear, O Lord, when I cry aloud, be gracious to me and answer me. Come, my heart says, seek his face. Your face, Lord, do I seek. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in anger, you who have been my help. Do not cast me off. Do not forsake me, O God of my salvation. If my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will take me up.
So, you know, there's a change here. What's going on? We got some, what's the psalmist asking for here?
Kind of reassurance and answer. It's also expressing his fear of all these things that could happen to him. His parents forsaking him and
Yeah.
all these other things.
Don't turn your face from it.
Yeah. Don't leave me alone. Don't turn your face from me.
I've always read verse 10 though as a kind of an affirmation of the one who won't go away. You know, good news for dysfunctional families.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seems like there are a lot of adversaries and enemies all the way through.
I know. Yeah, but everybody there, you know, if they assign this to David, you know, what's going on at this point in his life, you know, that, the songwriter thought it would be appropriate for David.
I always think of them as people living in a lot of places where there are other people who own the land. And they're not necessarily welcome, and so they're fearful of everybody who maybe looks a little different, everybody who's lived there longer than they have. All these other people and things around them that make them very scared, almost like maybe they're not supposed to be there.
Right.
I think it's interesting to put this in conversation with last week's Psalm 25, you know, where that, don't forget who you are, God.
Yeah.
Remember me according to your mercy, God.
Yeah.
Don't remember this bad part about me, you know, it's just that,
Like close.
yeah.
Yeah. That's a pretty powerful line. Here's my father and mother left me all alone. The Lord will.
Oh, gosh.
Last weekend, we, to this couple in the church, and, one of them is physician assistant, and she's a citizen, and her wife is a chaplain, retirement community, and they've been waiting for adoption, or foster care for children, and, they finally got approved, and they got two sisters. One is, 2 years old, and her sister is 12.
Wow.
And, I asked my sister, I said, and so she had pictures on her phone, and was shown to me, these, don't know if they were taken from their home, or I think they've been in another situation, but they could be keeping these children for up to 9 months to a year, as they move towards adoption, but I think, even if my father and mother left me all alone, the Lord would take me in. And I'm just crossed when I read this, it just kind of had this kind of visible shaking in my bones about, as they work to try to reestablish the family, and maybe hopefully get them back with their mother. Here are a new family who have taken me in, taken them in. Okay, so let's look at 11 to 14. Somebody want to read that?
I'll read it.
Okay, you do that.
Lord, teach me your way, because of my opponents, lead me on a good path. Don't give me over to the desires of my enemies, because false witnesses and violent accusers have taken their stand against me. But I have sure faith that I will experience the Lord's goodness in the land of the living. Hope in the Lord. Be strong. Let your heart take courage. Hope in the Lord.
So in this last section, what are the psalmist's requests to God in this last section?
This version uses a different word than hope, just wait.
I'm sorry.
Wait for the Lord,
Wait.
is in NRSV.
Yeah,
And
I'm
this
just
is,
reading from
oh, yeah, yeah.
whatever you go.
Common is fine. Which is it?
It's the Common English.
Common English, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I use that in the book, and they let me. Usually we use an RSV, so, what did you say it was again, Jackie, in our?
Wait for
the Lord.
Wait for the Lord.
It's a very different for us.
Mhm.
And the psalmist is asking, that the Lord teach him and, lead on a level path.
That path again from last week, the same, image that we had last week, listen to it from Pamela Greenberg. I used this last week, I think. This is a prayer, the book of prayer signs in the New Translation. Teach me, source of joy, your ways, and lead me down the level plain, because of the dangers that surround me on every side. Don't give me over to the breath of my fears.
Oh,
To the breath of my fears.
Yeah, don't give in. So let's hear it in 3 ways. NRSV, verse 12.
NRSV verse 12, do not give me up to the will of my adversaries, for false witnesses have risen up against me, and they are breathing out violence.
And Mavis, what is, verse 12?
well, don't give me over to the desires of my enemies, because false witnesses and violent accusers have taken their stand against.
Don't give me over to the breath of my fears. I really like that. It's taken about 4 sentences, 4 lines here and put it in one, very, very concise. So this hymn of faith concludes with an affirmation of belief in God's goodness and acknowledges that the strength of heart is made possible by hope, and a hope in the Lord, repeated twice, and we see a lot of that repetition of verses going on in the Psalms. Let's take a look for a minute at, how others have translated that phrase about God's faith, and it's on your handout there. It's interesting, I think it's not as different. It's not as, you don't see much different this time as we did last week. So, I'm English, I do, my heart says seek God's face, I do seek your face, don't hide from me. And, hey, Carson, can you read Robert Alter's, translation?
Of you, my heart said, seek my face. Your face, Lord, I do seek. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in wrath. You are my help.
And Linda, can you read that, like the other thing that's just wanted to learn?
My heart cried out to you, look at me. I've heard your hidden prompting in the depths of my soul, urging me to turn to you, and I have, truly I have. Don't be angry with me, don't turn away from me, please. You've always come to my aid in the past, don't fail me now.
What do you notice about these different, well, specifically, the left hand thing is the paraphrase, with the other two translations. Anything you notice or you mark about?
I, between the Common English and the Robert Alter, the last one, I like you are my help.
The present tense.
Over
Present
you
tense,
have
yeah.
been.
Rather than the past, yeah, I do too.
Another modern translation, listen, God, I'm calling at the top of my lungs, be good to me, answer me. When my heart whispered, seek God, my whole being replied, I'm seeking him, don't hide from me now.
Is
Oh,
that the message?
yeah, I like Alter better.
The difference I see between the middle one and the last one is very much a sense of, there's a real personification of the Lord in altars, which I don't see in Latina. It's much more the image of God as spirit. And as opposed to face, and there's a very different, almost a more childlike way of looking at it on the middle one, and it seems to me a level of maturity. And the third one is much more a sense of having a relationship with God.
Yeah, I really like that urging in the depths of my soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you think that's what she's doing rather than use the word face?
Yeah.
Don't you think that's the soul, but that's in my soul where her expression of God's face is?
It speaks to me more. I don't think of God as having a face. But I don't even.
Well, that's what a wonderful segue. Thank you so much. Sometimes it just happens, but,
Make your face to shine upon me, be gracious unto me.
and the Lord is countless upon you. So you don't think God has a face? Oh, yes.
Well, it seems to me that if the Trinity is 1 and 3 and 3 and 1, then you see the face of Jesus, and one of the things, you know, we can see the face of Jesus in everybody in this room, I hope.
Yeah.
And, so, you know, it's, to me, it's you see God in people you know.
I think I sometimes back myself into theology with children's books, because children are so literal and so concrete, and so many children's books, where does God live? what is God's name? Just very basic, I just want to know the basics, you know, what does God look like?
Because it helps a child to understand what God is.
Right, because we abstract it so hard, but yet they can hang in with the mysterious too. They don't, it doesn't have to always be so concrete, right? So here's a question. When have you had an experience like the psalmist of sensing God's face being near you? Or when have you had a sense of God's presence with you? I mean, the more I thought about my love of exploring God's face, the more I thought, I'm like you, I don't think I need to have God's face pictured. It's this great children's book about children all over the world expressing what they think God looks like, and one of them has a picture and it's half male, half female, because I think God is everything, the child said. Maybe you have an experience like the psalmist of sensing God's presence being near you.
I have it many times when I'm at the beach and there's nobody at the beach except for me and howl of the surf. I also see it sometimes in my dogs. And sometimes I definitely don't. Depending on what they're doing.
So example,
With which?
for your dog.
If, depending on the dog, who's sitting on my lap, and I look into their eyes, and I see that unconditional love, and they're being so loving and peaceful. I'm just filled with it, and I say, thank you, God, for this. And when I see his face, another one is fighting.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I had to take Daisy, my dog hair person before I came last Wednesday night. And so, you know, I was thinking about, I was teaching here and all this energy, and then I was thinking about flying on Thursday, and the tree coming up, and I go home and she's not there to greet me. And, you know, she always is waiting on the back of the couch, and, you know, how dogs greet you. She wasn't there, and the house was like, like her body's there just for flying. But yeah, that presence. So it's a comforting presence.
Well, I take a walk most mornings, sometimes in the afternoon, but I walk on a street that doesn't have as much traffic as the one on which I live. And the view from the street immediately has me looking into the clouds, looking at the sky, looking above the houses and above the trees. And no matter what the weather is, that's when I feel the presence of God. And it's just a sense of being alone, but being in the presence, because I'm not connected to any people or any devices.
So you don't walk with your phone.
No. I don't. Not when I'm doing that.
With the intention of not connecting to the devices and just changing in nature, kind of like what Pam's talking about at the beach.
Music, a lot of times, religious music, if there's nothing else going on. It really, music touches our heart, I think, probably quicker than anything else. Unless you're looking at the face of God.
I thought about all the times that, people have reached out to me, through love, you know, just, either, I remember a time when our children were preschool age, and he was really sick, and cars had broken down, and cars was in school, and it just was the seminary, we had nobody in the church, our little church, just came to the rescue. I'll never forget that. I felt the presence of God and care, nurture that was doing. There was no sense that I needed to pay anybody back, you know, it was not a tit for tat kind of thing.
Sure. And there's something about us being able to receive. Really, I was feeling like all about giving. Or if I'm not just to receive. Anybody else?
When I gave birth to my two children, after way too many hours of labor, and my husband and I had gone in the Lamaze class, we would just pop that baby out.
Who's we, Kimasabi?
I was just saying, get this baby out, and I don't care what you do. And so then when they lumped that baby up on my stomach, I mean, it was a whole new day holding that child and seeing that it did have 10 fingers and 10 hands on toes and, you know, and then the next experience, I guess, of that nature was when we got to hold our little granddaughters and, you know, just seeing what miracles that we had and that was a gift of God.
Thinking about community as well. I just got back from participating in an ordination service for a young woman who had been an intern here and is being called in, and her parents, her siblings, her grandparents, folks from the presbytery, you know, I was very much an outsider coming into this other than knowing her family, and yet really powerful sense of, you know, is it the Holy Spirit or is it call Yahweh, the voice of God, or, you know, what is the numinous quality of what was happening at that moment as we circled and laid hands and had prayer for her. But you know, powerful moment.
Sure. Sure, it's when that community comes forward and you invite all those, and all of a sudden you know, you don't even know whose hand is touching your back, but there's this sense of, the spirit moves forward. Donovan.
I was like enjoy, I immerse myself. When someone dies and the family tries to explain the mystery of that person, best they can, it's still his mystery. And I think the moments where the mystery connects with them, I find very powerful, and to me, that even the people that we know, we don't know, and so the God that I know, I don't know. That inspires me. I mean, and how different everyone is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember after, and my husband died, and you'd been with us some, and the guy had been with us some, and everybody had, and I remember emailing you and said, do you believe in signs? And I remember you wrote back and said, yeah, I do. Signs and wonders present. I kept bumping into stuff in the weeks after his death, and like, there's something mysterious going on sustaining me these days when I'm so exhausted and there's so much to do and put one foot in front of the other, but I kept bumping up into a sign, you know. And he said, yeah, sign.
You know, everybody has their own individual spark or whatever it is, and it's just, and they lived, and that's what they are, you know.
Do you think, in what ways do we, I think it's something about being attuned to the presence of God and how we nurture that in children and grandchildren means that they grow up with a Trinity connection, to the presence of God. Jackie talked kindergarten for how many years?
A bunch.
That's like a class, I mean, I think the boys, my nephews, all went through your class and I remember Christopher went through as a teenager holding Charlie on his lap, remember?
One of the things I remember about a child was right after my mother died. And my mother had visited that class, so they kind of knew who she was. And there was a little boy who talked about her dying and being with God. And hoping that God would also take care of his puppy, that my mother would also take care of his puppy. It was a very tender connection to my mother and God and me. It was very special in the only way that a child can.
Where else do you experience the presence of God?
Riffing off of Donovan a little bit. I recently was with a family, who had called right after a loved one had died, and it went to the house. And it was one of the most peaceful experiences. We had been there the day before. He was able to talk and tell stories, and after I left, friends came that whole day, and he had just let it all go. And affirmations had been said and prayers had been said, and when I came back that night, there was just such peace in that room and love for that whole family. It was one of the healthiest passings I really had ever seen, and I think I wanted to take my loafers off. It
Because you're on holy ground.
was holy ground. It was really unbelievable.
Like, because, we did that with our mom, we brought her home from the hospital and she was in my sister's front bedroom and hospice had told us what we did and how to care for her and, her beloved dog Butch. The ugliest dog in the world. She's gonna adopt, she turned 80, she's gonna adopt a dog, the dog's not born out, she's gonna break something, big. So I think what happened, she got a dog. My mother weighed 90 pounds, second west, the dog pulled her down, she broke her wrist, that's when remember that storm went through Memphis? That line there, the 9 power grid for, weeks, and it was 98 degrees. And I got there from Chicago with Mad Dash, and she's sitting there in the dark. She got this dog, Butch, and so Butch and I became best friends, literally, I was like, overbite. And his name's Butch, I mean, just look at, and Butch would drive, Butch ended up living with my sister, driving all the other dogs crazy, but Butch, we got our brothers there. We didn't, it's like this family, we did it right, got the brothers there, our brothers, and Butch was on the bed, and I thought her color didn't look good, I left the room, and she died. I went to get my sister, she died, my brothers were there. So we had our prayer, we called hospice, everything was good night, we were sitting around together. With Butch on the bed, and mom, and my brother, he said, well, no. Ancient Egyptian culture. And so, friends with God. Go sing well.
I'm not gonna do much singing. Then I'm gonna pay attention.
Well, I'm sure John will appreciate that as much.
I hate to leave early.
Tell John if he wants to start the choir late next week,
Not during this season.
Oh, tell me how they go.
Our chalice is gonna be here next week. They can use a nice prayerful entry into their Easter practicing. Yeah. Anybody else?
Well, while you're on the subject of music, some of my most profound experiences have been in the midst of music. Yeah, I think about singing in a chorus and, the chord changes just a certain way and you just feel like you're gonna explode with it.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so sacred.
Yeah, so we mentioned music, we mentioned nature, we mentioned death, and we mentioned families, what else? We mentioned dogs, we mentioned beach, the birth of children. What else?
There's a space in conversation that it's in the moment of the dialogue, but it sits right in between, you know, you and the person. And in that conversation, whether it's the feeling that is part of the exchange or the way the conversation may turn, of which neither one of you are prepared for, but it breaks open something within. I think it's, God is in that conversation with us, and we're speaking about different things at different times that none of us would have said that we consciously knew that we were going to speak into it and how it was going to be received by the other. And it punctuates itself by being the exact thing that needed to be said and heard in that exact moment.
And you probably in the fun for it.
Not at all. Not at all.
Reminds me of, Sandy Eisenberg Sass has a book, God in Between, one of her children's books, and, Sandy's one of our flyaway book authors, and the people built houses, they had no windows, and they couldn't see each other, and they finally went to the great one to find out what they could do, and they came back home and they built windows and then they could actually see each other. And they found out that God is in the between. God is in the between us.
For me, sometimes, or oftentimes, for lack of a better word, it's sort of a nudging. It's like someone will come to mind that, that I need to contact, I need to call. And sure enough, I mean, it's out of the blue, but there's something going on, you know, something they're struggling with or whatever. And so for me, that's one. And I've, one time I was even awakened. I mean, I heard God's voice say, I was struggling with buying, I was looking at this house and I was trying to decide if I wanted the lot next to it too. And it was like, literally in the middle of the night, it's, no, you do not want to buy it. And then it woke me up.
Really?
Yeah.
That reminds me, I had the same, not that, but I was determined by the, and Carson Salyer encouraged me to do it. And God spoke to me after I spoke with Carson, don't do it, you can't afford that. So I was not happy with, I preferred Carson's. But I didn't buy it.
God's messenger, you. But you didn't buy the book.
It's the man that thou gavest me, Lord.
Anything from you, Lane? I know you have an experience with God.
Never been explained with God. But not with them. Okay. Yeah. It's hard to, the grandchildren are out today. 3 of them, right?
There are times when I'm trying to help somebody figure out health insurance. And they tend to be very intensely personal conversations. And there are moments when it is clear to both of us that it's the presence of God between us. And they realize it and I do at the same time. And it's quite a special moment.
Well, it sounds like it's something like just being attuned to those moments.
Yes. It's often somebody who's really struggling with health, but they, by getting insurance, they have a sense of care. I think that's when it happens most often. But it's a very grateful experience for both of us.
Sure. Back at the person's life, they can get some care, and then you receive that lovely gift of knowing that someone who didn't have care might be given it.
Yeah.
And one last question, that I'll probably say with as we close. It's on the paper here, who are the faces God sees and loves that you don't see? Or who are the faces God sees and loves that we don't always see?
I'm reading a book over again right now on tattoos of the heart, like Father Greg Boyle. Fabulous book. And this Jesuit priest is able to see the face of God and gangrene, and I don't see it.
If God's faith, God loves everyone, and God's faith is in everyone. I suppose it's the people who I'm angry with, or disappointed with, or all those kind of things that I want to just remove from the face of the earth, but
Yeah. Now, the ones I do plain don't see because I'm so wrapped up in my own stuff. I can hear that. I was checking out Walgreens in Bellevue, and the person checking me out, I think, I don't know, the trends seem to be, I have a male voice, or a deeper voice, long hair, earrings, fingernail polish, and greeted me so kind, and just made me, even gladder to be kind back, and I'm thinking, how do other people see you, and does it like comment? I just hope your day goes well, and seem to be very happy, and I'm thinking, I think, and how it's so much in the South, have a blessed day. I don't remember the person saying that to me, but I kind of wanted to say that back. I don't always say that. This isn't always just roll on my tongue. I want to say have a blessed day, and I have everybody's kind. I played with this a little bit in the book. Who are the people? And who are the faces God sees that we don't? The transgender that we ask for a blessing for their new name. I had the experience of that in worship for one of their dead name and wanted to be blessed with their new name. So work that into the liturgy with the priest of the tree. And just seeing the joy on their face of having that happen in worship. The autistic child who needs help finding space to be present in worship. The widow or widower who grieves the loss of a beloved partner. Who are the faces God sees that we don't? From teenager wrestling with anxiety and depression, finding it difficult to make friends. The parents who struggle to make ends meet. The one whose body is covered with tattoos. The older adult who can no longer live independently. Who are the faces God sees and loves that we don't see? I think it's one that we need to wrestle with. I want to close with two ways tonight, and one is I want to give you a few minutes. I think we've got enough time to do this. I'd like to just close with, because it's in the psalm. Just take a piece, and it is 4 minutes. So I'm just going to invite you to sit in silence for 4 minutes, as you can close your day down. And then I'll close with this week's poet is Mary Oliver. Um,
Rejoice in the Lord.
Making the house ready for the Lord. Dear Lord, I have swept and I've washed, but still nothing is as shining as it should be for you. Under the sink, for example, is an uproar of light. It is the season that there are many children. What shall I do? And under the eaves and through the wall, the squirrels have gnawed their ragged entrances, but it is the season when they need shelter. So what shall I do? And the raccoon went to the kitchen and opened the cupboard while the dog snored, the cat had no. What shall I do? Beautiful as the new snow falling in the yard, and the fox who's staring boldly up the path to the door. And still I believe you will come, Lord. You will. When I speak to the fox, the sparrow, the lost dog, a shivering sea goose, know that really I am speaking to you whenever I say, as I do all morning and afternoon, come in, come in. Let's pray. We wait for you, O Lord, and we invite you to come into our hearts, into our houses, into our conversations, into all those places where we practice your presence. Be with us this week and all that we do, and all God's people say. So next week, we move on to, week 3, and we're looking at Psalm, 63, a Psalm of blessing. We're going to explore the word blessing, and, Julia Tanner, retired, cellist with the National Symphony, will be here, with some original music composed, for this song, and, it's going to be integrated piece with word and music. I will get her on these first 2 weeks, and she'll be here 2 weeks, because our friend Guy is traveling with family,
to Portugal and Spain.
traveling mercies, and have a
Thank you.
great time, as well. Thank you, all, have a good evening.
Good night, all.
Thank you.
Thank you.